Donald Trump is elected the 47th president of the United States of America. And obviously, this is big news. This affects every country on the planet. It affects how other countries are going to act moving forward. And I'm not going to lie, I stayed up because I live in Europe. So I had to stay up trying to watch what was happening. You know, I was watching a bunch of different live streams about the election, and I wasn't quite sure where or how things were going to unfold, if I'm honest. If I were to search deep down in my heart, I definitely thought that Donald Trump wasn't going to win. For a very basic reason, it felt or it looked like to me that the whole system was against him, for better or for worse, you know. Kamala Harris seemed to have the endorsements of a bunch of different celebrities. She had the momentum at one point. She made a lot of money. Well, her campaign made a lot of money, you know, or fundraised a lot of money. So it seemed like, you know, that was where all the energy was, or at least in the beginning after Joe Biden dropped out and whatever. So I remember I sat on my couch and I was watching a bunch of different streamers talk about stuff, and you know, something began to happen early on where the numbers were coming through, and I was watching clips on X and or Twitter, and it seemed like there was a lot of energy around Donald Trump, seemingly, you know. And so I laid on the couch and I fell asleep for a little bit, and I woke up in the wee hours of the morning. It must have been like 3 or something, and there was just this massive red wave. It seemed like Donald Trump was leading everything, right? And most shocking of all was the fact that he was winning the popular vote. And this absolutely blew me away. Donald Trump winning the popular vote. You know, so as it so happened, Donald Trump actually won. He won massively, right? He won the Senate. I'm actually not sure right now if he's won the House as well, but he's also won the popular vote, and it's just absolutely crazy. And now I'm not quite sure. Well, I think I know how I feel about this. The way I feel about this is I have a sense of peace about this whole process, you know. But before I get into that, the thing I find most interesting is how the Democrats and more left-leaning people are reacting to this, because previously the Democrats and more left-leaning people always had this moral superiority. Oh, I don't even know how to say that word properly. They seem like they were morally on a higher ground because they could always claim that they won the popular vote and the electoral college is garbage and it's a threat to democracy and all that sort of stuff. And they've been saying the same thing about Donald Trump. So I feel like they expected to win the popular vote. Like they thought that was in the bag, because then the same arguments could be made. The Electoral College is garbage. The popular vote was the voice of the people, and the people have spoken, and the president elect is not who the people want because it is not the popular vote. But now, with Donald Trump winning the popular vote, that whole line of thinking is now flipped on its head, right? It is saying that the people wanted that guy, the one that the Democrats called Hitler, the one that they called a fascist, the one that they called a dictator. The what are some of the convicted felon, or what, any of these other words that they used? The people have spoken and they want him. And I can imagine a lot of the Democrats are reeling right now. Oh, not imagine. There's a ton of videos of Democrats kind of losing their minds, trying to figure out what in the world is going on, going from blaming Latino males to saying that white woman didn't show up, or whatever the case might be. But it's very, I'll be honest, it's very satisfying to watch. And I'm saying that not because I'm a Trump supporter. And to be fair, if I had to choose between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, I'd probably choose Donald Trump for a variety of different reasons. But that's not what's important here. For me, it's just one thing I really didn't like about the Democrats is the way they always thought they were morally superior to everyone else. They believed they carried the voice of the people, but it just turns out that it was all not true. It wasn't true. People were not supporting what they were pushing for. People didn't like the policies. People are unhappy. They are unhappy with the way the economy is right now. And even if the economy on paper is looking good, the way people are experiencing it on the ground isn't good. And I think that has a lot to do with the vibe in the country and the state of the world. You know, people didn't think that Kamala Harris would be able to sit in front of some of the world's dictators and some of the like Putin or Xi Jinping and some of those people. They didn't see Kamala Harris being able to sit down in front of them and, you know, force them to make a deal or to be really firm with them, you know. So I think people just had enough of this current administration, you know, the way they handle the conflict in the Middle East, like, you know, Israel, Gaza, Iran, Hezbollah, all that sort of stuff. America has looked really weak. And I think people just wanted someone who seems like they believe what they're saying, and that for better or for worse, they are very purposeful, very straightforward. They say what they mean. And that's Donald Trump in this case. Whereas Kamala Harris, you kind of never knew what she wanted or what she thought. So it's been entertaining, I'm not going to lie, watching people kind of melting down online. And I don't know, it's like people have rejected the message that the left has been trying to push. And an example of this is there was an advert that the Democrats ran, which I thought was fascinating. I think it just showed me how out of touch some of these people are. It was about a married woman who goes to vote, and I think it's voiced by Julia Roberts, and she goes to the voting booth, and it's something about how this is one place where you get to make your own choice, blah, 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 you know? And she looks over the voting booth and looks into the eyes of another woman, and they nod at each other because their husbands expected them to vote for Donald Trump, and they decide not to do that because choice, blah, 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 and all that sort of stuff. So they nod to each other, and then they both go back to their husbands, and the husband is like this weird-looking guy. He's like, "Did you make the right choice, honey?" or whatever. And she's like, "Yeah," but she lied. It wasn't true. Like, what kind of message is being sent with adverts like that? Is that the kind of families that people want? You know, it's like that's crazy to me. Are you telling me you can't disagree with someone you love, even vehemently disagree and still love each other and be honest with each other? This whole lying thing, lying behind your back, it just I don't know. I found it kind of shocking. So, yeah, it just seemed really sleazy and weird and whatever. So apparently that message just didn't ring with people. Another aspect of Donald Trump winning that has it's put a smile on my face, if I'm honest, is the fact that the celebrities, I think this is an indictment on celebrity culture. They think that they are super influential, that they can change people's minds by just endorsing a candidate that the establishment has greenlit or whatever. This election cycle has showed celebrities that they don't hold the power that and influence that they believed they had, and it's music to my ears. I when Donald Trump won, that was one aspect that put such peace in my heart. It showed me that people are not just robots that you turn on and off, that you turn on and off by putting up a certain celebrity. Because one of the things that seemingly added a lot of energy to Kamala's campaign was the fact that she had all these celebrities, Jennifer Lopez, who else? Taylor Swift, LeBron James, all these people coming out, some of the Avengers cast who came out and did this really cringy video about assembling, and it was just super, super cringe. But the thing that annoyed me about it is some of these people really believed that they somehow know a lot more than the average person. All of these people are millionaires. They've got, millionaires, tons of money. They've been loved and applauded for years and years, and they believed that because they thought something was right, that everyone else should kind of fall into line. And the arrogance of that is just, wow. It's just crazy. It kind of reminds me during COVID when the lockdowns were being implemented all across the world, and all these celebrities were coming out talking about how we're in this together and we can do it. Doing all of this while chilling in their huge mansions where that will probably take you a whole day to walk around, and they're out here saying we're all in this together. And then who's going to forget that whole Imagine All the People song that all these rich celebrities kind of sang and filmed themselves, and then it was put together in some type of video collage, and people were just not feeling it. And I think it's in this similar vein, right? It shows one of the things the Democrats did is that they really went out of their way to platform celebrities endorsing them. And they genuinely believed that celebrities were still the heartline of society. A couple years ago, maybe 15, maybe even 20 years ago, a celebrity endorsing a president or something was a massive deal, but ever since social media has been a staple of society, we've kind of gotten a look into some of these celebrities, who they are, the things that they do, and they are not morally superior to us. They are the same. And in some cases, they are much worse. You just have to check out the whole Diddy stuff that's happening at the moment. So I really enjoyed that fact. When Taylor Swift came out, who some people think she is a bigger star than Michael Jackson ever was, which is insane. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say that. That is insane. Bro, stop it. I'm sure she's great. I personally do not listen to her music or anything like that, but you cannot mention Taylor Swift in the same sentence as Michael Bloody Jackson. Bruh, Michael Jackson became famous before the internet. People knew who Michael Jackson was in in countries in Africa that didn't even have like much connection to the rest of the world, and people there knew who Jesus was and knew who Michael Jackson was, and maybe McDonald's, right? So please find help. She is not in the same league as freaking Michael Jackson. But anyway, she came out, she endorsed she endorsed Kamala Harris, and people online were going crazy about it. She got a ton of likes on Twitter and on Instagram and wherever else she's at. And some Democrats really thought this was it. They believed that they cooked. They cooked. They got Taylor freaking Swift. They got the Swifties, right? They got the Swifties. And LeBron James comes out as well, saying his thing. Yeah, whatever. Kamala Harris. People thought he cooked too. Donald Trump was going down. I don't know why this just makes me so happy. I think hopefully this is a signal to celebrities that we don't want to hear your opinions, right? Unless you actually taken the time to talk to people, to go start your own podcast, start kind of diving into politics a little bit more and give your opinions consistently. And then over time, people will maybe start taking your opinions a little bit more seriously, because the exact opposite of this was Joe Rogan, right? Whatever you think about Joe Rogan, the fact is his opinions matter because he's constantly talking about stuff. He's constantly talking to different people. He's got a massive audience. He talks to people over an extended period of time, 2-3 hours an episode. So people feel like they know him. They trust him. They understand the way he thinks. When he talks, he explains his train of thought, why he supports a certain candidate or whatever the issue might be. We understand how he thinks, right? So when he came out and endorsed Donald Trump after having Elon Musk on the Joe Rogan Experience, people, that hit hard, right? Because you kind of saw his trajectory, like his process in who he thinks could be a good candidate. You know, there was a long period of time where he didn't even want to get Donald Trump onto the podcast. And some people grilled him for that. But finally, things changed and he got Donald Trump on the Joe Rogan Experience. I watched that whole 3-hour interview. And it was, it was very, very interesting. And some people might still come out of that still thinking that Donald Trump is not the best. the best person to run the country and all that sort of stuff. But at least after the 3 hours of conversation, you feel like you know the guy. You know the way he thinks, for better or for worse. He came across as very relatable and all that sort of stuff. But the point is, after that interview, Joe Rogan reached out to Kamala Harris's team, and there were issues. She wanted him to fly out to her to do 1 hour. They asked him if he's able to edit the interview or the conversation, and that's not his style. He goes there and he has genuine conversations with the person he's talking to, right? So, yeah. Endorsements like Joe Rogan actually mean something. So, yeah, that was quite incredible. And also, I guess, a lot of the celebrities that supported Kamala Harris had to be paid, allegedly. I mean, they had to be paid. They had to be paid to perform and all that sort of stuff. And on Trump's team, you had people like Elon Musk who were willing to actually put money down and put their entire net worth on the line, right, to support Donald Trump because they believed that the main thrust of his message for where America needs to get to was one worth risking everything for. So there's a difference in heart here, I think, where when it comes to celebrities, it's just, it can come across as so hollow and so fake. I don't know why I have such venom against this, against celebrities who believe that their opinions matter when it comes to this. Like Billie Eilish. She's a great musician. Amazing. Her and her brother. But I watched the video of her endorsing Kamala Harris, and I remember watching that whole thing, and I was just like, bro, why? Why? Just focus on your music. And the fact that Donald Trump now won the popular vote, right? It's an indictment on this whole popular society, or the perceived value of popular society, i.e., I don't even know if I'm explaining it well, i.e., what people think is mainstream, the mainstream way of thinking. The mainstream way of thinking is that Donald Trump is a threat to democracy, and most people actually just want Kamala Harris because she's a woman of color and all that sort of stuff. When in truth, people are worried about how much eggs cost. Something that Billie Eilish never needs to think about. People are worried about illegal immigrants flowing into the country. And people are tired of virtue signaling and, especially virtue signaling and choosing to not offend, choosing to not tell the truth out of fear of offending, Like, there's nothing wrong with saying we only want legal migrants to come here, and we want the ability to choose who comes here, and we want the people who come here to benefit our society. There's nothing wrong with that. Anyway, so huge win there, and it's fantastic in my opinion. I just had to get all of that off my chest. In the last story, something that's been happening over the last couple days, or a story that's been breaking, is based in Amsterdam. So the Maccabi Tel Aviv, a soccer team, were playing Ajax, which is a soccer team in the Netherlands. And supposedly, what happened is you had a whole bunch of Israelis who obviously went to Amsterdam to support their team, and there's been a rivalry between these two teams, and it's been a healthy rivalry for a long time. But now, as you can imagine, because of what's happening in between Israel and Gaza, there's a lot more tension. So I'm going to read from the AP, and it says that Israeli fans were assaulted after a soccer game in Amsterdam by hordes of young people, apparently riled up by calls on social media to target Jewish people. Dutch authorities said Friday, Dutch authorities said on Friday, 5 people were treated at hospitals and dozens were arrested after the attacks, which were condemned as anti-Semitic by authorities in Amsterdam, Israel, and across Europe. Pro-Palestinian demonstrators were banned by local authorities from gathering outside the stadium, and video showed a large crowd of Israeli fans chanting anti-Arab slogans on their way to the game. Afterwards, youths on scooters on foot crisscrossed the city in search of Israeli fans, punching and kicking them, and then fleeing quickly to evade police. Amsterdam Mayor Femke Halsema said. So the story goes that the Maccabi Tel Aviv were playing a soccer game against the Ajax, right? And the story goes allegedly that some Israeli fans were chanting anti-Arab slogans and they were attacked. But as the stories are unfolding, we're finding out that these attacks were premeditated by the pro-Palestinian crowd. It looks like some taxi drivers were involved. It looks like they found out where some of these Israelis were actually staying. They put up Palestinian flags near where they were staying, kind of baiting them into removing some of these flags. And yeah, so there's like some horrific footage of some of these Israelis being hunted down. The pro-Palestinian crowd were attacking Israelis or Jews all across Amsterdam. Like, I mean, there's videos of them asking people where they're from to find out if they're from Israel and then attacking them. Which is insane, which is the basic definition of a pogrom, which a pogrom is a violent riot against Jews. And it's kind of crazy that is happening in Europe in 2024. It's just absolutely insane. So, everyone has come out, like everyone in power has come out kind of, saying that it's anti-Semitic and all that sort of stuff, but not a single person has been arrested, right? Like, what kind of message does that send? You've got a literal pogrom, people attacking folk just because they're Jews, and no one has been arrested, which is kind of insane to me. And you've got some people like Mehdi Hassan, who, he's super pro-Palestinian kind of vibes, basically saying that because some of these Israelis were chanting some allegedly anti-Semitic, some anti-Arab slogans, that they kind of brought it on themselves. But, this goes both ways. Is what people like that saying, or people like that saying that if you chant something or say something against a certain group of people, you should expect some sort of retribution, some sort of anger, you should expect to be hurt. Because if that's true, for a year now, you've got pro-Palestinian people going out in the streets all over Europe, burning flags, Israeli flags, American flags, putting up Hezbollah flags and Palestinian flags and all this sort of stuff, chanting from the river to the sea, like genocidal things. Like, according to someone like Mehdi Hassan, if you attack that group of people, that's completely justified because, because they said hurty words. And I don't know, and the way the media is covering this is really interesting. And it's really hard to find information about stories like this because a lot of the media is actually quite anti-Israel. And, and this isn't to defend anyone who is saying some stupid things or acting like an idiot. You always get people like that. But the very idea that in Europe, you had a group of people all over Amsterdam searching for Jews to attack them and hurt them, forcing them to say, free Palestine or whatever the case is. You've got people saying that they're not Jewish to avoid being hurt. This is absolutely insane. So this is still a story that's kind of, there's more information being revealed about it as time goes on. But it's just really, it's actually quite sad in a way. Everyone is hurting about what's happening in the Middle East and all that kind of stuff. But this is definitely not the way. And luckily, and this is basically the biggest defense for Israel existing, because for a long time, Jews didn't have a place that they could run away to and feel protected. This is like the single best example for why Israel actually exists. Because if they all just lived in Europe, they would have been having a tough time. And I guess that's why Israel exists and should continue existing, in my opinion. But yeah, those are some of the stories I found interesting. I know the bulk of this episode was about the elections and my absolute joy at the fact that celebrities now know that their opinions don't really matter all that much. Their job is to entertain us, and we love them for entertaining us and all that sort of stuff, but they are not morally superior to us. No, they are definitely not. And I think they've gotten a wake-up call. We've also learned that if you want to run for office, you should probably be able to sit down for a 2-hour, 3-hour interview and lay out your point of view in a way that people can understand, instead of just parroting some phrases that make no sense to anyone, right? So that was this week. Until next week, ciao.